we go. Okay, so welcome again to everybody. I'm excited to see you all here. I think we have some new folks joining us, and we have some people who join us frequently, so I'm glad to see this mix. So today we're making honey pistachio cookies. And before we get started, I just want to go over a few things about the class. So if you haven't joined us yet, my name is Kelly. I'm the executive director at Culikid. And if you don't know our organization, we're a nonprofit that's based in New York City. We provide healthy culinary programs for people of all abilities, aiming to teach not only cooking skills, but also healthy habits, social independence, and motor skills. So as I mentioned, this class is being recorded. So if you don't want to be in the recording, you turn your camera off. But we love to see your faces and we love to see what you're cooking so we can see where everybody is and also answer questions. But it's whatever you're comfortable with. We'll also take some screenshots that we might share on social media as well. So if you want to be in the recording, don't want to be in the screenshot, you can also let me know that in the chat, which I have to open up for myself here. Okay, perfect. Okay, so everyone is muted, but you can also unmute yourself to ask questions as it comes up, or you can use the chat. So we can use the chat now and introduce yourself and say where you're from. It's nice to see where we're all from. We have people all over maybe sometimes. So go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat if you want to. Our next virtual class, which will be free as well, is going to be on April 23rd, making millionaire shortbread. So that's shortbread with caramel and chocolate. So that will be very yummy. And lastly, if you're cooking with someone at home, ask them to take pictures of you cooking and you can send them to us or tag them on social media. It's always nice to see a fuller view of what's going on the other side. So let me just pop a few things into the chat. Hello, Erica from Virginia. I think we have others from Virginia too. And Ella from England, love to see you again. Okay. So this is a link to where you can find our classes. Addison from Virginia too. I think we have a lot of Virginians on right now. Yep, there we are. Caitlin also from Virginia. And then we have Canada. And the Bronx, close by to me. Hi, everybody. Thanks for introducing yourselves. I love to bake too. Okay, so then lastly, I'm going to just send some, whoops, it went away. Some links to find us on social media, tag us, send us your pictures, all that. Again, I'll email all this to you. Let's get started. So when we're baking, we always want to start with preheating our oven. So that way, as soon as our cookies are ready, they can go into the oven and we don't have to wait around. So this oven is going to get preheated to 350 degrees. So let's start by getting those ovens on. I'm just going to wait a moment because somebody is joining us. But in the meantime, you can also line your baking sheet with parchment paper. Okay. And you always want to do that. You want to set up your baking sheets or pans before you start cooking too. So that way you're ready to go. Okay, so if anybody just joined us, we've preheated our ovens to 350 degrees and we've lined our baking sheet with parchment paper. And the only other thing that I asked to do before class was to deshell your pistachios. This just takes a lot of work, a lot of time. So if you have pistachios and you didn't do that yet, you can start working on that now as we are in between some steps. Okay. All right, so let's get started with our cooking. So we're going to start by melting butter. So we want to get this to to somewhat room temperature. So we're going to start with that. I'm going to use my stove. And if you need to use a microwave or you want to use a microwave, you can. You just need a microwave safe bowl. And you should do it on like 20 to 30-second intervals. If you do it all at once, it might start popping all over your microwave, and check it until it's done. So we're doing a cup, which is 2 sticks. So unsalted butter. Salted is okay, if that's all you have. We'll just cut down the salt that we're adding. So I'm getting 2 sticks of butter into my small saucepan right here. And if you have like a tub of butter or you have vegan butter, then you can just measure out a cup. Hold on a second. Somebody else is joining us. All right, so we're going to turn on our stove. So it's at about medium heat. If it starts to splatter, you can just turn it down if it starts to like bubble too much. So this will just take a little while. And if anybody joined us after we did some introductions, you're welcome to use the chat to introduce yourselves. You can say, who you are and where you're cooking or watching from. We have people all over, which is great. All right, so again, this will take a little while. We already have some butter melting. You can kind of just let it sit. You don't have to mix it or anything. I just keep an eye on it and move it around. It helps it melt a little bit faster. If you're in the microwave, remember you can do it on 20 to 30-second intervals. Okay, so if anybody just joined us, we are on the melting the butter step. All right, so it's a cup of butter that we are melting on the stove or in the microwave. And we've also preheated our oven to 350 degrees and lined our sheet with parchment paper. It is 1 cup of butter. And if anybody needs me to repeat anything, you can ask me in the chat, or you can unmute and ask. And I'll try to type the measurements into the chat when I can too. Mine's about halfway there. If you're waiting patiently for your butter to melt, you can know that the next thing that we're going to do is chop our pistachios. So if you don't do it yet, but you can get a cutting board and knife ready. Okay, and these cookies are so good. You can probably put other fillings in too if you don't want pistachios or white chocolate specifically, but the honey is what's going to make them really nice and soft and chewy. Okay, so for anybody who just joined us, we're up to our melting the butter stage. So that's 1 cup of butter. Okay, and if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, mine is very close. So we also check in with everybody to make sure we're on the same page. So you can give me a thumbs up when you're done melting your butter, so I know you're ready for the next one. So I'll keep an eye out for those thumbs ups. Okay, I think mine's done. Okay, so I'm going to turn mine off and I'm going to also take it off of the heat. Okay, so that will help it cool down a little bit faster. Actually, even faster will be if we put it into a bowl. So, okay, just actually 1 second while you are all doing that. I'm just going to answer a question in the chat. I'm just going to put this into the chat for anybody who needs it. In case you haven't gotten the recipe from me yet, or whatever it might be. I'm going to put all of the ingredients into the chat right now, so that way you can gather those. And it's no problem for anybody who came late. All we've done so far is melt our butter. Okay. Okay, is anybody done melting butter? Thumbs up if you are. Yes, okay. Douglas, I think Addison might be, because they're on chopping nuts. I see Caitlin might be on chopping. I think it looks like a lot of people are getting thumbs up from Judy. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna move it out of our bowl, out of our pot into a bowl, because that will cool even faster. If you are doing the same thing, we're going to use 2 bowls today if you have them of different sizes. Our large one is where our butter is gonna go. Our medium, smaller one will be what we start our flour mixture in, okay? So if you're putting your butter into a bowl, it would be the large one. And I'm gonna use my rubber spatula to really scrape all that, the goodness off all the sides and the bottom of the pan, okay? And because now my pot was still hot, my bowl is not, so it will cool down a little bit faster. Okay, let's get topping some pistachios. I think everybody is ready for that step. So to open that up, and the recipe calls for a cup of pistachios. I saw somebody's gonna go extra pistachios, so you do you. If you really like pistachios, or maybe you wanted them just pistachios, no white chocolate, go ahead and double up. Go ahead and decrease. It's 1 cup of pistachios when they're out of their shell. Yeah. So yeah, if you do it with the shell, you will definitely have a little bit more, the shells will take up a lot of volume. So, and the other thing you want to know about your pistachios, I have roasted and salted pistachios. So I'm making a note of that for later when we're adding salt. So check out your pistachios and find out if they're salted or unsalted. If they're not labeled, you can just give it a taste. You can, mine is taste the salt, or yours probably not, or maybe not. Okay, so we have a cup of pistachios on our cutting board. And we're taking our knife. We're going to be very careful when we're using a knife. We are going to grip it correctly, which means we're going to pinch it right at the blade, right at where the blade meets the handle, and then wrap the rest of our fingers around the knife. And if you've done classes with before, you know we usually do bear claw and we'll slice like this. For nuts, we're going to kind of do this rocking motion. So you want to put the tip of your knife down on the cutting board and use your fingers to stabilize it, and then press down and then rock back and forth, never taking the tip off of the board. Okay, so you're using your hands to stabilize it. This hand is to stabilize it. And what you want to be careful of is that your hand is completely flat, right? We don't want to drop it down like that and have our fingers in the way of the knife. They're completely flat. You can just do like 1 or 2, or you can do the whole hand. And we're going to rock back and forth. Okay, so think about this. These are going to go in your cookies just like chocolate chips, right? So we don't want them to be super, super tiny. Pistachios are already pretty small, so you don't have to even cut them too much. Maybe you don't even want to cut them at all. That's okay too. So you want them to be about the size of like a chocolate chip. It's nice to have some of these little pieces, some of these big pieces for some different textured bites. Okay, and then, so I did say not to take your knife off the cutting board, but when you want to kind of change directions, you can, but don't be going down at the same time, right? So I'll go across this way. And then I'll change my knife in the other direction and go across this way. Okay, and that's a rough chop. You know, I have some big pieces, some little pieces. I like having lots of good pistachio bites in mine. And that's gonna be good enough for me. So I'll show you a little bit closer what they look like. No, oh, sorry, slow. There we go. So some of them, you know, are still even the halves, but we have some that are like cut in half, quarters, all different sizes. That's what we call a rough chop. They might all be different. Okay. There we go. And we're going to put these in at the very end. So we're just going to set them to the side. So I'm going to just take my full cutting board and set it to the side. If you want to put it in a small bowl, you can do that. Okay. All right. Is everybody done with chopping pistachios? Thumbs up if you're ready to move on. Okay, awesome. Caitlin, Addison, great. Thank you. Judy, thank you. Okay, so to whoever just joined us, we just got up to our chopping pistachios phase. Okay, so we've melted butter, we've chopped pistachios. Now we're going to measure our dry ingredients. So we're going to get that medium bowl, the one without the butter in it. And we're going to measure our dry ingredients. So we do them separately so that way we can get them all mixed together. And then we'll add them to our wet ingredients afterwards. So the first ingredient that's going to go in here is going to be our flour, which is going to be 2.5 cups. Okay, so if you're using the same measuring cup as for your pistachios, just give it a little rinse. You might have some like of those like little skin particles in there. Wipe that out. And then we're going to use a spoon to scoop and level. Put this down a little bit. So we're going to just scoop until it's full or really over full. Okay, so now we have this heaping mound. I'm going to use the back of my spoon to just level it off. So I'm going to go right against the cup and level. That's why we use these kinds of cups instead of those like those glass or plastic pouring liquid ones. So we can get it nice and level and put that in your bowl. That's one. And we have to do that again. Okay, heaping, level. That's 2. And now we need to use our half cup. Okay, so it's 2.5 cups. Oh, sorry. No, don't, no. Okay, half cup. All right, so again, that's 2.5. Yeah. I got my dog cleaning up my mess, so she'll be here getting all the crumbs. And hopefully not barking too much more. All right, so 2.5 cups of flour into a medium bowl. Thumbs up when you got it. Awesome, I'm seeing a lot of thumbs ups. I'm seeing some people still working, that's fine. Thank you. All right, so while we're waiting, we'll just tidy up our space a little bit. Thumbs up, awesome, thank you. All right, I think that means we're good to go. All right, so our next ingredient is going to be our baking soda. Yeah, baking soda, not powder. Make sure we're using the right one. And we're going to do 1 teaspoon. So that's your little t, that's your smaller one. You're just trying to decide which is a tablespoon or a teaspoon. And for my container, it's very convenient that I can just scoop in, and I'm going to use the top of it to level it off. So I'm just scraping it across the top, and I come out with a perfectly even teaspoon, and it goes in the same bowl as my flour. Okay, so far we got 2.5 cups of flour and a teaspoon of baking soda. Tidy as we go so we can have faster cleanup later. Okay, so the next thing is going to be salt. So if you don't have salted pistachios, you can do a teaspoon of salt. I'm gonna do somewhere between like 1/2 and 1/4 teaspoon of salt since mine are already salty. So we're just going to pour it and put it into our flour. However, it can be pretty tricky to pour just a small amount of salt because it's, kind of heavy, it's kind of small, it's very small, space that we're pouring into. If you'd prefer, you can pour it into a little bowl and then scoop rather than pouring it directly into your teaspoon.
How much salt again?
It's a teaspoon of salt if you're not using salted pistachios. Okay, if anybody is using salted pistachios, I'm doing somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 teaspoon. Don't let that confuse you.
Can we use kosher salt?
Yes, you can use kosher salt. Okay, any other questions? All right, we're going to put our salt in. And then we are going to mix it using a whisk. So a whisk is going to be the easiest way for us to mix up our dry ingredients. So we're just going to grip the bowl with one hand and move the whisk around. So I'm getting the sides, and then I'll go into the center. Okay. All right, so you can't really tell because all of our ingredients are white, but this should be good, and it will also get mixed up again when it goes into the batter. So I'm going to set that to the side. I also didn't get my head yet. Okay. Thumbs up when your dry ingredients are all measured and mixed. Nice, Caitlin and Addison, thank you. Great, I'm seeing community first, thumbs up. Okay. Looks like we are good. If anybody needs more time, if I move on and you need more time, just, raise your hand, flag me down, or unmute and tell me. All right, so now we're going to start working with our bowl of butter. We're going to add our sugar to it. So we have 2 different sugars. We're going to start with our white granulated sugar. Okay. And that is going to be a 1/4 cup. All right, so we get 1/4 cup. And you want to level this too. If you don't have a utensil, you can just use your hand as long as it's clean. And once you have that, it's going to go into your bowl of melted butter. Right, so we've set our flour bowl to the side. So we're just working with our butter.
So a 1/4 cup of sugar?
Yes, a 1/4 cup of the white sugar, and then we're going to do brown sugar. Okay, and then we're also adding honey later, so that's why we don't have as much sugar as you might have in another recipe for cookies, so you get some sweetness from the honey too. The video is available for viewing after, so I'm going to send the recording along with the recipe and everything else that you need after this class by tomorrow sometime. Yeah, good question. And then Erica, I see, should we already add the sugar? So the sugar just went into the butter. If it went into your flour already, that's okay too. It's a little bit better to mix your sugar with your butter, even though it's technically, if you thought, is sugar dry or wet, you'd probably say it's dry. So you would think, let's put that in with our dry ingredients, but our sugar granules are much bigger than our flour. So it doesn't mix and stay together in the same way. It'll all get mixed up together eventually. So if anybody put anything in the wrong bowl, it's all going to end up fine. Okay, so do we have sugar and flour? Are you ready for brown sugar? Thumbs up if you are. Yes, yes, yes. Yes. Yes, yes. Okay, great. Brown sugar. I might need my other brown sugar actually. This one is going to be 1/2 cup. Okay. So again, I'm repeating my cups here that I use for the flour. So I'll just wipe it out a little bit, especially if you're dipping into your sugar. If not, it's fine. You can get a little bit of flour into this mixture. All right, so we need 1/2 cup, and we're going to measure this a little bit differently. We have to pack our brown sugar. Okay, that means that we are packing it like we're making a sandcastle. We want to get it to hold the shape of the cup, right? So we're not just pouring it in and scraping off the top. Oh, a little tricky. All right, so we get it to be full, and then you pack it down, and then you'll add more. Oops, kind of making a mess here. All right, so once you have that, so it's packed in, and then I can actually put it right into my hand, and it holds its shape. That's how you know you've measured it correctly. And then put it into our butter and sugar bowl. And then I'm going to tidy up because this is too much of a mess for me. Okay, and then we're going to mix this. So you can use an electric mixer if that's what you have, but this can all be mixed by hand too. All right, I'm going to actually switch to a wooden spoon. It's a little bit sturdier, and my brown sugar needs to be kind of broken up a little bit. Okay, so we're gripping the bowl and we're mixing and scraping the bottoms and sides, but we're going carefully and gently because we have melted butter that we don't want to splash everywhere. Okay. Let's see, how are we doing? Thumbs up when you're mixed. You know, I should mention about the mixing. Usually we're looking for like a pretty uniform mix. Thanks, Douglas. We're usually looking for a pretty uniform mix, but you might see something that looks like mine where you kind of see like where your melted butter doesn't look like it's fully incorporated. That's okay. Because there's just not enough sugar to like melt into all of the butter like that. And it might still look a little separated. That's okay for this. Because we'll get it all mixed up in the next step. Okay. So is everyone ready? Thumbs up. Yes, great, great. Seeing lots of them. Great. We are going to put in an egg next. Okay, so I like to crack an egg into a separate bowl, especially if you haven't done it that much and you might be worried about eggshells. You know, eggshells happens to everybody, even if you have done it a lot, and it's easier to get them out of this bowl rather than that bowl that already has stuff in it. Okay, there's a slight, yes, just one egg.
Okay.
Yep. And there's also a slight chance that maybe your egg is like bad or something like that. So it's always good to like put it in separate and then dump it in. So we're going to crack it on the counter because that's going to give us a cleaner break than if we would crack it on the side of the bowl. And we're going to give it like a medium amount of pressure like you would with like a light knock on the door. So it would be like that much pressure, right? Very light. So we're going to do like 1, 2. I have my crack in there. And then I'm using my 2 fingers to push into the crack a little bit and pull it apart. Okay, so then you want to check, look to see if you have any eggshells. And if you do, it's very easy to use the side of your egg to get them out. Sometimes if you're like fishing around with your fingers, it can kind of get stuck. The eggshell is like very elusive and won't come out. So if you're all good, it can get poured in. If you have eggs on your hands or your counter, you just want to wash those off. So I'm going to throw out my eggshells and wash my hands before I move on. Okay, so mine is eggshell free, so it's going into the butter and sugar. Good. Is everyone all set with their egg? Yes, I'm seeing lots of thumbs up. Great, thanks, Caitlin. Great, thank you. Okay, tidying up just a tad. We are going to do our honey next, which means we're using our 1/2 cup again. So we'll just give that a little rinse. And this is going to make your life a whole lot easier if you have it. If you have cooking spray, grab it. If you have a little bit of oil or something like that, grab it. Otherwise, you can just scoop out your honey. What we're going to do is give this a quick spray all the way around and then put our honey in, and you're going to see how easily it comes out. So we don't have to sit there and scrape or use our fingers and get all messy. So I'm just going to give it a quick spray. I've gotten, you know, all the sides and the bottom and everything. Yes, 1/2 cup. Yep. Okay, and then we're going to fill it with our honey. And again, the spraying it with spray, that's an optional step. Oh, I have new honey. I have to open this first. Okay, so we are going to fill this up. Okay, right until we get to the top. And then we're going to pour it into our butter and sugar. Okay, so you can see mine came out pretty easily. So that saved us a lot of like scraping around the sides. So that's a nice trick for you for anything sticky like that, you know, agave, honey. For those others, those are the two that came to mind. Okay, I'm going to give this a little help, and that's going to be it. If you didn't spray, your honey will stick pretty significantly, like more than you might think. So you definitely want to scrape it out and not just like shake it out. You'll probably need to scrape it with a spoon or with your fingers, even as long as they are clean. Okay. It looks good from what I can tell. So I'm going to keep going to the vanilla. So we're going to do a tablespoon of vanilla. Okay. If you don't have a lot of vanilla, like a teaspoon or two is even fine. A tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. So if you wanted to do somewhere in between a teaspoon and a tablespoon, you could do that too.
Please.
I'm sorry, you're broken up.
What? Oh, sorry. Where do you put the eggs?
Sorry, try one more time.
Where do you put the egg?
The egg? Is that the question?
Yes.
I think he said, where do you put the egg?
Yeah, I think so too. Sorry, it was very broken up. Yeah, so the egg is in with the butter and sugar. Okay, did that get your question? Sorry about that.
The vanilla, how much vanilla?
It's 1 tablespoon. So if you have the two that say 1, it's the bigger one tablespoon with a big cheek. Okay, so in this bowl here is our melted butter, our 2 sugars, 1 egg, and half a cup of honey. And now it's going to be our tablespoon of vanilla. Okay, so we're just going to measure this over it until it is full and then pour it in. Button. Okay, so if you have all those things in your bowl, you're going to give it a mix. If you're mixing by hand, I'm just going to start with my egg. I like to make sure I break up my yolk first, and then we'll give it a mix. Okay, and now this time you want to mix it until it looks a little bit more uniform. Like right now, I can still kind of see like some egg whites hanging out on its own, some butter hanging out on its own. So we want to make sure we get this all mixed up. Scraping the sides and the bottom, giving some small mixes, giving some big mixes. Okay, so you can see mine has fully combined, much better than when we first started out. It all looks the same, right? So I don't see any ingredients hanging out on its own. It all looks like one same batter. All right, do a little tidying is always good. All right, are we all mixed up? Thumbs up if you are. Nice job. Nice, Ella. That looks great. Great, great, Addison. Awesome. I see you, Erica. Thank you. All right, let's keep going. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our flour to our butter sugar mixture. Okay. So I'm going to scrape it all in. Make sure I get everything that's kind of stuck to the bowl. And then we'll mix. If you're using an electric mixer, you want to make sure that you start on a low speed. If you start really high, the flour is going to go everywhere. So we're just going to go nice and slow to start incorporating. So we're kind of doing this folding movement, which means we're like kind of like scooping from the bottom and like bringing that onto the top and vice versa. So it's going to take a little while, but eventually this will look like a nice, delicious cookie dough. Okay, and this is pretty easy to tell when we're done because we will not see any more white flour. Okay, so if you see any spots of white flour, you want to target that. We're going to mix one more time once we add our mix-ins. So this we want just combined. There's some flour on my spoon, but other than that, no flour. We got a nice looking cookie dough here. Okay. So when yours looks like that, thumbs up. I already see one. Great. I think I saw one from Caitlin. Thank you, Douglas. I saw Addison. Okay, I know that some people are still mixing, but that is okay. We're going to add our mix-ins and then mix again. So it's okay if you are still mixing or you want to mix again because we'll be mixing with our mix-ins. Our mix-ins are the things that are going inside. So our nuts that we chopped and our white chocolate. Here it is. All right, so we're going to do a cup of white chocolate as well. My 1 cup has some flour on it, but that's okay. You can wipe it out. So it's all right if we have that remnant in here. So we're just going to fill up our cup. All right, and then pour it into our cookie dough. And then we're going to take our pistachios and put that in as well. Okay, I didn't ask if anybody was doing anything differently. I know that somebody mentioned they're going to do 2 cups of pistachios. Is anybody adding something different to their cookies?
I added some coconut flakes, sweetened dried cranberries, and some almonds.
Wow, those sound like very fancy cookies. Thank you for sharing that. All right, anybody else feel free to share. We are going to start mixing. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're getting the bottom because it might look mixed on top, but you want to make sure that you're getting the bottom so that way when you're making your cookies at the end, you still have all the deliciousness that you have at the beginning. Okay, so like mine's looking pretty good, but I'm like really working to get that bottom off. Okay. All right. And that's how we're looking on my end over here. Okay, we have melted butter. Okay, I see somebody at half the amount of chocolate chips. Yeah, white chocolate can be like a little bit overpowering too, but yeah, we mentioned earlier, do whatever is right for you. If you really like white chocolate, go for more. If you don't, go for less. If you like a lot of pistachios, more. I'm gonna grab my cookie scoop. which is like one of my favorite tools in the kitchen because it makes things so easy. But if you don't have a cookie scoop, you can just use a regular spoon. I'm going to check in with you all in a minute, but for right now, I'm going to get myself set up, which means I'm cleaning up a little bit of things that are in my way. I'm moving my baking sheet right next to my bowl. I'm getting this cookie scoop or spoon that I'm going to use to scoop it. Oh, cool. Sharon's using half white chocolate chips and then half chocolate chips. Yum.
I added marshmallows to mine.
Marshmallows? Yum. You guys are so creative. That's what I love about cookies, because you can put whatever you have around or whatever you like, and it's going to be delicious. And then I mentioned in the beginning too, these are going to be really soft because of our use of honey. You also get softer cookies with more brown sugar than white sugar. So we have, we have our brown sugar in there too. Okay. Is everybody ready to scoop? Thumbs up. Okay, awesome. Great, great. I think everybody's ready. This is something that's going to be ongoing, so it's okay. You can see me do it a few times. Again, I love the cookie scoop, so I got my cookie scoop going on. If you have one, you're scooping it in and pressing it against the side of the bowl. You can leave the extra, you can take off the extra, and then I'm putting it onto my cookie sheet. Let me bring you a bit closer. Okay, now, because these are with melted butter, the batter is pretty warm, these are gonna spread a bit, right? So I'm gonna do rows of 3. I'm probably gonna do 9 on here. I think I can fit 3 by 3. Okay, I wouldn't do 12. I wouldn't try to fit a 4th one in here because we want to see how they spread first. And then we can make that decision if we can do that for the next batch. So it's going to take a couple batches, or you can be using multiple sheets. Okay, and then the other thing I want to mention, so then the other thing is too, if you're using just a regular spoon, you just scoop it and you might have to use your finger to like drop it onto the plate. They also don't have to be perfectly round. That's how I made my cookies growing up, and they were delicious. You just drop them onto the plate. But I do love the cookie scoop for the ease of it. It's really just like a one-handed job. So as long as you can do this to release it, then it's a pretty good tool for accessibility. Okay, so we're doing 3 by 3. And then you can also freeze your extra dough. So I live in a house with just 2 people. So 9 cookies is probably plenty for us for right now. But so I have the rest of this cookie dough here, right? So I'm not going to freeze all of this. This would be hard to deal with later. What I'm going to do is after I bake these, or while they're baking, put them on another cookie sheet just like this and fill up the cookie sheet with separate cookie doughs, right? And then freeze it like that. And once they're frozen, throw them in a plastic bag or a Tupperware, and you can just pop them out right from there and bake them. And then you can have fresh baked cookies whenever you want. If you bake all of them and you realize, whoa, this was too much, you can also just freeze your cookies when they're made. I need to rinse my hands. We're going to go into the oven together in a minute, but does anybody have questions about storing or freezing their cookies?
How long does it go in the oven for?
Yeah, so it goes in, I'm pretty sure, I just want to double check this. Yes, so they'll go in the oven for 8 minutes. They're pretty fast.
At
baking
350
cookies.
degrees?
That's correct. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep. I'm going to put that in the chat too. Bake for 8 minutes. Okay, so if you're going in the oven, you can do it together. I'm putting on my oven mitts because you always want to be super safe. Okay, opening my oven all the way. So if you open it partially, your door might spring back up at you or you don't have enough room. And then grab my tray, make sure it's flat, and put it into the oven. Close our oven and then set our timer. 8 minutes, that's it. When I bake them from frozen cookie dough, I probably put them in for like 10 minutes. So keep in mind, these are gonna be a soft cookie, right? So when they come out, and that's how cookies are always gonna be when they come out. So they're always gonna be super soft. So you need to let them sit for like at least 5 minutes before you try to take them off the tray, and you'll see they'll get their shape again. Yeah, so if you registered before Wednesday, I forget. You will have received the recipe in that email that I sent already. If you registered after that, then you will get one tomorrow. Today, if I can get that email done, but at the latest, it will be tomorrow. If you believe you registered a while ago and didn't get an email on like Tuesday or Wednesday from me, then reach out to me separately, or you can let me know in the chat now. But if you registered sometime last week, then there's a chance that you might not have gotten it yet, but you will, along with the recording and a link for our following classes. You're welcome. Okay, does anybody have any questions? All right, so our cookies are in or going in the oven. They're going to bake for 8 minutes. You want them to be like a little bit golden brown on top, but you don't want to like touch it or anything. They'll be super soft. Let them sit for 5 to 10 minutes on the cookie sheet before you take them off with a spatula. And then you can repeat with the rest of your cookie dough. What is my chore salary for cleaning the mess? That has to be negotiated on your household members. Yes, yeah, there's a little bit of a mess. I mean, mine too. I got a mess going on over here. So
oh wow, I like your window view from there.
Oh, thank you. So it's a little bit of a mess, but hopefully you will be done before the cookies bake. So your salary could be baked cookies, freshly baked cookies in the morning. You are welcome. Any other questions? Should we go and start getting cleaned up and get ready for some cookies? Yeah. All right. So I'm going to let you go, finish off those cookies on your own. Send me pictures of the finished products of you making them. I'd love to see it. I'll send you all an email either later today or tomorrow with the recipe, the recording, and all that good stuff. Yeah, thank you for joining us. And we hope to see you at a class soon. Enjoy your cookies. Enjoy your day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone. Enjoy your day.